Hello and a very warm welcome, viewers. You're watching India Fights Back with your host, Kriti Mishra. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan has said that India will be in a position to vaccinate its entire adult population by the end of this year. He said that health facilities are being upgraded upon the speculation that the virus might mutate in future and endanger our children. During a COVID review meeting, Dr. Harshvardhan said between August and December this year, India will procure 216 crore vaccine doses, while by July this year, 51 crore doses will be procured. He emphasized the need to step up vaccination and reiterated the need to dedicate 70% of vaccines provided by the central government for the second dose. And to discuss the way forward, I'm joined by very eminent guests on the show today. Joining me on the program, Professor Narendra Kumar Arora, Chairman, COVID-19 Working Group of National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, and Dr. Naveed Wig, HOD Medicine and Chairman, COVID Task Force, AIMS. Welcome to Sabha Television, both of you. And Professor Arora, coming to you first, over 216 crore doses of vaccines will be manufactured in India between August and December 2021 for India and for Indians. Your assessment of India's vaccination drive, which is, of course, world's largest vaccination drive.
Thank you very much, Kriti, for inviting me. And I would like to start what we have today and how we are going to ramp up. So today we have two vaccines, Covaxin and Covishield. Covishield is approximately 6 to 7 crore doses per month, and Covaxin is about 1 to 1.5 crore. So we have around 7 to 8 crore doses per month currently. That's our capacity. But within next 8 weeks, these two companies, Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute, so by the beginning of August, they both should be manufacturing more than 10 crore doses a month. Now that itself will make about 20 to 22, 23 crore doses per month. Bharat Biotech is entered into agreement with 3 other companies. So I think this ramping, primarily this ramping is going to be with these two vaccines. And this is real, and this is not assumption. The third component is that Sputnik. Sputnik 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago, 1.5 lakhs came, and then 1 week later, 1.5 lakh doses came. So this was kind of an initial rollout, but by August, we should be having beginning of 2 to 4 crores or 5 crore doses per month from there. Ultimately, about 6 to 7 crore doses by September, October onwards will be having Sputnik also. Then next in line, which the vaccine which will get emergency use authorization is Cadila Zydus vaccine, DNA vaccine. And they will start with 1 crore doses. And by September, they should be having 3 crore doses. Two more vaccines, Novavax and Johnson and Johnson. So these are keep on adding Novavax and Johnson, so that by October or so, we would be having around 30 to 35 crore doses per month. That clearly shows that if we pick up speed from, let's say, second half of July, and you rightly said 51 crores is till this July end or August, mid-August, because we have full of June, full of July, another 15 months and then 10 days for this. And in 45 plus age, we have around 30 crore people. And we have already given almost 20 crore doses as of today. I mean, some little bit less than 20 crores. Another 30 crore doses will be available, so that we have reasonable saturation. 60-70% people over 45 should be immunized by that time, and thereafter we should be targeting about 1 crore people being immunized every day. And that way, by the end of this year, most of us would have received one dose, at least one dose, and majority would have received 2 doses also, the way things are. So we are in a very comfortable position. We are very tight for vaccine supply at the moment. Actually, the whole globe is having difficulty, but within next 6 to 8 weeks, we should be in very comfortable position, and we should be able to address all our needs. And I feel toward the end of this year, once the trial on children is finished by Bharat Biotech from 2 years to 18 years, we should start immunizing children also, because there is a lot of concern that we have to take care
Yes.
of our children also. So overall, these are not hypothetical figures; these are actual figures. And what the honorable minister has said, I think we are on correctly on that roadmap to achieve those targets.
All right, as Professor Arora said, that things are going to improve drastically in few weeks from now. And of course, you made a very important point about vaccinating our children. So we'll just get back to that point. But before that, Dr. Vik, in the 4 months since vaccination started on January 16th, India has given 19.2 crore doses to 14.7 crore people. The target group of vaccination has expanded from 30 crore high-risk people to everyone above the age of 18, altogether 94.5 crore adults. So your take on India's massive vaccination drive and of course the need for ramping up production.
Yeah, so if you see how it happens, if you see, if when train comes on a platform, what happens? Train stops, then who goes in first? If train stops, who goes in first? So what the government did, or what internationally, globally it was done, it is the healthcare workers who will go in first, and they took their first shot. Then went the frontline workers. Then went people who were more than 60 years of age. Then people from 45 to 60, and then comorbid conditions, they went in. So it was a very scientifically planned program. Now it has been opened from 18 to 45, right? So I would suggest here that we can make it 18 to 45 with comorbid conditions, they get first. So we can modify it, because you can always do it. Then we can make it 35 to 45, then 25 to 35. So this will again help us in who goes inside first. We have to protect our as age. In what happened in first wave? Elderly were more affected. What happened in second wave? It were the people who the middle age group, they were more affected. So similarly, now we have to come down and protect our youngsters, who are our prime thing. But more important thing is vaccination takes time to act. It takes 2 months to act. It may take 3 months to act. It is not a one-time formula. So what we will do in these 3 months, or even we take a vaccine, it is not 100% foolproof guarantee that you will not get COVID. You can still get COVID, which can be asymptomatic. You can still get COVID, which can be mild. You can still get COVID, which is moderate, but it will prevent severe COVID, that is for sure. So what we have to follow is social vaccination. Social vaccination means mask. So we cannot go away from mask at any cost. Even in CDC in USA has said that you can take off mask, but we are not sure how long this immunity is going to last. So, and how responsive my body has been. There are many people who are immunosuppressed, and they will not mount good amount of immune response as well. So this science is still left. Which vaccine is best, for how long it will protect, is still left. So this, as the data will come on, we will keep on changing our goalposts. And so that is how things happen. So my request is, please follow social vaccination, mask, your distancing and hand hygiene has to be maintained. But again, I'm saying social vaccination plus vaccination is not the only thing to break the chain. Break the chain will be there when your test positivity rate in district is kept less than 5%, and in village it is kept less than 1%. So it is, and it is not a one-time phenomena. It will be for 2 years, 3 years. We have to keep suppressing so that we keep our numbers low by vaccination, by social vaccination, and by other containment measures. We keep our numbers low. And then as soon as number come up, we suppress little bit. And as soon as number go down, because there is another issue. Now numbers are coming down. What will we do? We have to ensure that we open up very slowly. We have to ensure that our 50% of ICU beds are vacant in hospitals, so that in case surge occurs, we are able to take care of our patients. So it is a mixture of test positivity rate, it is mixture of social vaccination and vaccination, and it is a mixture of excellent health infrastructure at rural level, village level, sub-district level, and district level. I am not talking of bigger cities like Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi. I'm talking of small tier cities like districts or sub-districts or village level.
Absolutely, sir. You're making a very important point there. As this enemy is unknown, we have to keep adopting different tools. And of course, as you said, that social vaccination is very important. But Professor Arora, another important aspect that I'd like to touch upon, that this proposal of India on waiver of certain TRIPS provisions to increase global vaccine production. Certainly, sir, it is a very important move in order to take on the challenge of vaccinating the poorest of the poor and save lives, to ensure that supply chains for the vaccine manufacturers be kept open and unbridled, as the entire world, as you said, is in dire need of vaccinations.
So, Kriti, thank you very much. This is such a critical issue, and now we are realizing that it is becoming a rate limiting factor. That there are two aspects. One is supply, or the ingredients for manufacturing the vaccine. That is a different aspect. It does not fall in the preview of TRIPS, because TRIPS is when the ready-made product is there. But supply chain maintenance, which goes into manufacturing, is also critical. And we are very pleased that countries like USA has said that they will allow these supplies to be flown out of their country. But we have to see the results on the ground. I think that issue is very important. The other component which you are talking about, waiving of the IP.
Yes.
Now, the whole US survives on IP, the innovation. They claim that they are an innovative society because they very closely guard the IP status, and they do not want to share it. They say we are ready to manufacture and give it to the rest of the world. So those are issues. They have said in public that they are ready to consider this in a positive manner. But what again actually happens, I think we need constant pressure from scientists, from bureaucracy, diplomacy, and at the highest political level. This is sustained pressure is required. I'll give you one example, and which is so important from an Indian perspective. And it's a very simple thing. So India has its own DNA and RNA vaccine. Now, in today's environment, we cannot go in for a placebo when we do double-blind randomized control trial, placebos are given. But we can't give placebo vaccine today. We have to give some vaccine. Now, what should be that comparator vaccine? Comparator vaccine should be something similar. Now, I have a mRNA vaccine in India. Now, that vaccine should be compared with either Pfizer or Moderna. These are US vaccines. And you will be surprised that there is this hesitation to allow the Indian company to use Pfizer or Moderna as a comparator. And that means we need 10,000 doses. We don't need too many doses, but it requires government of USA clearance for this. So sometimes we feel some of these words are very nice and heartwarming, but I think they need to be translated. So when you raise this issue of TRIPS is good. And so even IP wavering may not happen, but at least allow the other countries to use their products so that comparators can be used. The second is, in fact, India has, as I understand, has said, come and set up the industry. And those negotiations are going on. But what I'm trying to say is, it's not an easy task. Things are said, but they need a lot of work for them to be translated on the ground.
And they have to get translated on the ground, sir, because every country, poorest or the poor, remote or developed, they all deserve vaccine to fight against this pandemic. But another important aspect, of course, is of wastage. Dr. Ved, every dose wasted is denying someone protection shield against a disease. That's what Prime Minister keeps on saying. While the overall levels have considerably reduced, there are many states which still need to substantially reduce the wastage. What is your suggestion to those states?
Yeah, we can't waste anything. So I can't, it's quite obvious. So you have to make all efforts to, and currently wastage will decrease in future because currently there is no hesitancy. Everybody wants to take a vaccine. So this hesitancy has reduced and we have to ensure COVID appropriate behavior at vaccine places. And then there is no hesitancy. So this wastage will go away. But obviously we can't waste it. I just don't want to go into depth of this. But initially there were issues, but now there is no hesitancy. Earlier it was hesitancy which caused the main issues. Now people are ready to take it, provided it is in full amount.
Okay, all right. Professor Arora, you mentioned about children and vaccinating our children. While there is no significant shift in the incidence of COVID-19 infection towards younger individuals, at least right now, the Health Ministry has also come out for the first time with a clinical management protocol for children. There are trials for vaccines for children. So what is your assessment of vaccines for children?
So, I mean, I'm a pediatrician myself, so that children are very close to my heart as individual level, but from a nation's perspective, they are even more important because they are our future. Fortunately, what has happened in the first wave and now since January, the second wave, the proportion of people or age groups affected across the spectrum of life is similar. So those below 10 years initially was also about 4%. This year also it is 4%. 0.3 10 years and now also. The problem at the moment looks visible because the number has increased by 4 to 5 times. Last year, maximum number we had 1 lakh, and this is called denominator effect. So when the denominator is 1 lakh, and if I am seeing, let's say 30 children, now with 4 lakh, I will see 120 children. So 120 become very visible. Same is true for younger people between 10 to let's say 25 or 35. This denominator effect has increased. So fortunately, the proportion it is not a selective involvement of children, but we have to get geared for children now, because if a similar outbreak occurs, then children require very specialized type of a care. You cannot treat children like small adults. Their care, their ventilators, their ward, they are all require specialized care. And very important thing, if I am a mother and I have a 2-year-old child, the child cannot stay without me. Whether I have, because at the moment, the children, the adults who have corona, there is no attendant, nobody is allowed. They are managed as such. But children require, less than 10 years, children require an attendant, a parent, mother, father, or somebody to take care of them, because somebody has to feed them and all those things. So therefore, the structuring of COVID care centers required is specialized, and it cannot be done overnight. And that is why the government has initiated a major program so that we are ready in next 6, 8, 12 weeks with a comprehensive COVID care for children, and not to forget pregnant women. You being a lady, you can understand very clearly that when somebody is pregnant and she becomes sick, so you have to take care of not only her, but in case she delivers prematurely, I have to take care of the baby also. So a comprehensive COVID care plan is underway, where every COVID center has to have a pediatric wing and a maternal wing. Because these are, if I don't look after my mothers, मेरी बच्चों को कौन देखेगा? So this philosophy has to be there, and that is what we are working, so that the Honorable Minister has very rightly said that we have initiated, yesterday Honorable Prime Minister also expressed concern about children, and this process has initiated. So over next 2-3 months, so we are not waiting for third wave, fourth wave, nothing. Any child who gets sick now will get the care best possible at par anywhere in the world. We want to take care of our children. Their numbers are less, but they need, and some of the illnesses which children get are very serious. And it occurs usually 3 to 4 weeks or 5 weeks after recovery from original illness. So, this is another kind of something which is of concern. The family members have to be made aware, and simultaneously the systems have to get geared for that.
We have to take care of our children and, of course, our future as well, sir. But Dr. Vic, there is a concern of third wave now. What else needs to be done to avoid this catastrophic third wave? And what are the key lessons that India must incorporate for future?
So again, we have to keep breaking the chain. Again, it is the formula of test positivity rate of less than 5% and formula of 50% ICU bed vacant, and then social vaccination and vaccination. But main thing which is being referred by Dr. Arora is also health infrastructure. Now we are talking about pediatrics, mother and child. These patients have been taken care for last 1.5 years. They have been taken care, and in the best possible way, they have been taken care. So it is a common area for COVID, which in COVID care center, in which small things can happen. So it has to be perfect, but we should not forget non-COVID. So when I say 50% of ICU bed vacant, I mean that I'm excluding non-COVID. So non-COVID has to remain. But and it is the only 50% of ICU bed for COVID. If numbers increase, how will I escalate? So those plans have to be made at very perfect level. Then comes the issue of manpower. ASHA workers are burdened in rural areas. They have worked a lot. Then we have to come to CS, and in PHC there are 6 beds in each PHC. In each CST there are 100 beds. In each district hospital there might be 500 or even more beds. So where is the manpower? Where is the trained manpower? So facilities are already there. What you need is trained manpower. So NEET exam, which is for the postgraduates, 1.7 lakh doctors were appearing for NEET exam, but postgraduate seats are only 40,000. What will happen to 1.3 lakh graduates who are doctors? Where will they work? They will again prepare for this exam. So if we make these district hospital as postgraduate institutes with post-graduation in specific subjects of medicine, anesthesia, gynae, pediatrics, and microbiology and small subjects, then these residents can be attached to CHC and PHC. So the quality of work which will happen at public health, primary health center and CHC and district hospital, it will improve phenomenally, and they can be linked to medical colleges. So it is, whole infrastructure is there, whole plan is there. It is now the execution. If we execute, we already have 1.3 lakh doctors who are willing to work in these areas. Provided we make it postgraduate institute, we can always, now online teaching has become the norm. We are not able to teach our residents the way we used to do. So big, bold steps have to be taken so that our health infrastructure improves forever. What will this do to the local area? What we do say is, for this COVID, stay at home and stay local. Once local infrastructure is perfect, everybody will be taken care locally. And then if we link it with ambulance services to the CHC and PHC, and we have a good infrastructure, we have trained manpower, and we already have facilities. So it has to be thought through in a big way. And in next 3 to 4 weeks, we have to execute it. Only then our infrastructure will be permanently improved. Because once this district hospital become postgraduate institutes, then people working will remain there for a long time. then the transfer will also go away. They will put their heart and soul in that area. And that local hospital, district postgraduate institute will be the pride of that area. So if it is Bhiwani Postgraduate Institute, it will be the pride. There will be trained academic doctors, young doctors who are ready to work in PHC and CHC. They're able to handle all sick patients. They manage their own ICUs. So it is doable. That's what I'm trying to say. So third wave will not come if we suppress and lift strategy. If we apply, we do social vaccination, we do vaccination, and we improve our health infrastructure in such a manner that it is for long term. So whenever in second wave, so many patients came, the health infrastructure was burdened so much. Still till today it is burdened. Even in Delhi today, there are no ICU beds. Even if test positivity rate is less than 5% for a day, it has to be there less than 1% for 1 week at least. And then 50% of ICU beds should be there. Only unless we have these objective parameters, we will not let the third wave come.
All right, sir, you are raising a very genuine concern there, and let me take that to Professor Arora. Professor Arora, he's flagging a very important point there, shortage of trained doctors, and the questions on our planning, the implementation, and the execution part of it, sir.
So I think we have discussed it before also, that skilled manpower is very important. Doctors and even the support staff, nursing staff, attendants. And this has to be created practically overnight. That's the other thing which Dr. Vig is raising. So we have a pool of about 100,000 or 125,000 people who are like doctors, full doctors. We have another almost 100,000 or 80,000 who are interns. And final year, another 80,000, so about 1.5. So because, for example, if I open a 500 bedded COVID care facility, 500 bedded COVID care facility at least requires, if not less, but at least 10 doctors. Every 50 beds, there is at least one doctor. And on 50 beds, at least there are 2 or 3 nurses. So, but currently we are able to create this kind of a physical infrastructure overnight, but manpower is not there. So this becomes infructuous. All this effort does not pay back as much as it should be. So it is not machines, but the man behind the machine is also important. And we will have to think, and I think the thinking process has initiated, as Naveed is very rightly saying, that we need to create. And the other one is creating nursing staff and ANMs, our nursing students. There is a large, huge number of nursing colleges, and we need to take care, see that the final year students and the interns are also quickly brought into this service sector. But as I was saying, it looks ridiculous, it looks presumptuous, but the fact is that we need skilled manpower almost overnight. And therefore, I like the word which Dr. Vig said, some bold decisions have to be taken. And some of these will have to be, without that, I think we cannot manage. And our preparation for the next coming months, I would not use the word wave, whether it comes or not, there are so many other things, but we need to be prepared for that. And it can only occur when manpower is also there. And this is absolutely necessary. And we have learned over last 1.5 years, infrastructure can be created overnight, but skilled manpower is equally important. And we need to think how best we can create that. And we cannot keep crying, manpower nahi hai ji, HRH ki problem hai. We cannot keep on crying that. We have to find a solution.
We have to find a solution. Very important points being made there by both our panelists. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Professor Arora and Dr. Vig, on the show. Well, viewers, that's all we had for you in this edition of India Fights Back. But before that, let me remind you once again to stay safe from the coronavirus pandemic. Remember to wear a face mask and wash your hands and face regularly. And ensure physical distancing whenever you're stepping outside. Remember, these simple precautions are all it takes to defeat this pandemic. Take good care and goodbye.